is Mississippi Department of Transportation. Director White, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and the other members of the department you brought with you, and give us an overview of where MDOT is now and where you see yourself headed in the next year.
Sure. I'm Brad White, Executive Director of the department. I've got Byron Flood and Nick Lewis with me. Nick handles our government affairs, and Byron is our budget director, who is the brains of the whole outfit. But we'll go straight to the handout that you've got here, and I'll run through it pretty quickly, and then we'll be happy to take any questions you have. But before I get into that, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the legislature for the investments that y'all have made in transportation over the last few years. They've been, in my opinion, paradigm shifting from helping us be equipped to be a true Department of Transportation that deals with all the modes of transportation, but also in restarting our capacity program and upping the maintenance budget and our ability to protect the taxpayers' existing investment in the state. It's been transformative, and this year's budget will reflect the largest budget that MDOT history. So the first page you've got here, page 2, as you know, we're a special fund agency. So by and large, what we do each year is come back to the legislature and asking for the authority to expend the money that we've been given. The money on this page is money that the legislature has appropriated out over the last 4 or 5 years. It covers everything from, you'll see here, from the original capacity project fund, the matching money for the IIJ, federal dollars, the Murchie Road and Bridge, the multimodal fund, some other improvements, as well as ARPA money that has gone 100% to the paving of highways around the state. This totals into $485 million. That's not the total of what's in the account, but that's what we estimate that we would spend over the next budgetary year. Therefore, we need the authority to spend the money that you've already given us. So this is not new money. This is money we have that y'all have given us that we're asking for authority to spend in those levels. On page 3, this is a comparison of our revenue from what I call our program money. This is our federal program that we run. You'll see the federal funds here. The main thing to point out to you on this page is if you look at fuel tax from the 26 projected year to the 27 projected year, you'll see an increase of a little better than 100 million. That is the 6 cents of additional fuel tax that we'll be collecting over that year. So that's the reason for that change. You'll see a little bit of a change in the federal funds. That's also not just the programmatic dollars we get, but federal grants and other things that we've been paying out. Everything else here is pretty much normal that you've seen before. And this is a total with our budget projected to be in 1.56 billion plus 485 million, which, as I said, would give us a budget of about $2 billion, which would be the largest in agency history. On page 4, this breaks out our budgets by program. If you want to find where the additional fuel tax revenue will be deposited, that's in the maintenance program. That covers everything from paving to mowing to guardrails, other types of activities like that. On page 5, and this is the one I'd like to spend a moment talking about, this breaks our budget down by object. One of the most important things that y'all have done for us over the past 5 years is giving us the authority to work with the State Personnel Board at adjusting our salaries. And there was a few different reasons that we wanted to do that. Number one, MDOT, when I came back 5 years ago, this coming July, we were hemorrhaging employees. Our maintenance forces had dwindled down by several hundred. Our engineering staff we had just lost all types of people, and we'd become very dependent on consulting firms to carry out a lot of the work that we would be required to do. This was a major problem, not just in being able to more efficiently and effectively and more, I think, financially reasonably able to handle our mission. But when you look at the winter weather that we've got coming up in the coming days, it's our maintenance forces that are out front trying to make sure that the roads remain open and doing all of that. And by losing so much of that workforce, it really handicapped us in being able to respond in a way that your constituents would expect their department to be able to respond. So over the last 4 years, we've been able, thanks to your help and you're giving us the authority to do it, work with the personnel board to initiate skill sets and other things that allow our employees to have the opportunity to advance their salaries and to move up within the department. And I'm happy to report to you that we have stopped the bleeding of employees and we're beginning a slow process of building back. And I think that you'll be able to see a difference in our abilities to take care of the roadways and to do all the different things that the people expect from us. Up until this current fiscal year, our salaries and benefits, which is the top line on this budget by object, was set at around 202 million, 202.4. This past year, it was cut back to 194 million. That really didn't cause us any problem for the current year that we're in. We've been able to continue with skill sets and continue dealing with the salaries the way that we've had planned. However, I need that funding authority level to go back to 202.4. If we don't have that, I'm not going to be able to continue skill sets or some of the salary adjustments that we've been doing. And I think we'll start regressing backwards with our personnel. The main thing I want to point out to you that's most important here is this is not a request for money. This is money that we have. It's simply me asking for the authority. So if we, and I'm not asking for more than what we've had traditionally. Up until this last year, it was 202 million in salaries. But if we could go back to that, it would allow me to continue kind of the trajectory that we have working with the personnel board, who, by the way, I can't brag on enough. They've been great to work with in helping us look at the classifications that we've got of employees, look at the progression that we have with them. How can they earn points to deserve and get the promotions that we could offer? It's a really good program. I think it's helped us, but we're going to be hitting the ceiling after this year. And I think if I have to tell employees we're not doing the skill sets and stuff like that anymore, it's going to have an impact on our retention of employees and the motivation for the employees to try to work hard to advance. So I'd like for that authority to go back. Everything else is pretty straightforward. If you're looking at the contractual services and commodities, that's where you'll find a lot of the mowing, a lot of the asphalt, where we buy gas, guardrails, and other things like that under this object deal. And that's pretty much where our budget sits with regard to the authority for the funds you've already given us, as well as the federal program. A couple of things that I'll just mention in closing. This would be the fifth and final year that we would need the $40 million that y'all have traditionally given us outside of our budget to draw down the additional 200-something million of federal funds that's been made available to Mississippi through the reauthorization of federal highway. You may remember that federal highway is reauthorized every 5 years. At the time that they were last reauthorized, our delegation was successful in getting an extra $1 billion put in for Mississippi to be paid out over that 5 years. And it was going to cost on average about $40 million a year in state funds in order to draw down that money. The legislative leadership at the time realized that the way our budget's set up and the way the law is written, the lottery funds would have to be used first to access federal money. We've been putting 100% of the lottery funds by and large toward the repaving and rehabilitation of two-lane highways around the state. We've been able to rehabilitate about 3,300 lane miles of highway on two-lane roads, which I think have made a phenomenal difference around the state. And so the leadership felt like that money should continue being spent on rehabilitation of highways, and that the state would just provide the $40 million a year in order to access the extra 200+ million in federal funds. This would be the final year of federal highways IIJA reauthorization. And so we would request that in supplemental funds. Beyond that, we do have capacity projects that will be ready to be built this year that no construction funds have been identified with. We obviously would be pursuing federal grants and federal earmarks to help defray the cost of that. The legislature in the past has shown an interest in providing one-time money to try to move projects off of that capacity list. If that's a conversation that you want to have, I'm happy to talk in greater detail about that. Also, Mr. Chairman, you had mentioned the Strategic Multimodal Fund. Part of House Bill 1 last year provided a certain percentage of the additional fuel tax to go to that fund. it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 million.
Yeah.
So it's about $2 million a year that'll go there. That's spent in aeronautics and rail and in ports. We still have the old, what I call the old multimodal fund that MDOT uses, where we contribute 10 million of our own funds from also highways into it that goes with those three modes, as well as public transit, which is also an important mode to be included. So if the legislature wants to try to fund that particular fund at the level that it's been done in the past, that's going to need a supplemental appropriation, because the fuel tax is going to generate about 2 million for this year. Last year, I think y'all gave 18. And beyond that, I can't think of anything else unless I left something out. It's pretty straightforward. Y'all have been very good to us, and I don't want to be greedy. So that's pretty much it. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director White. We really appreciate the work that you've done and you and your team have done to sort of bring this budget into something that's easily discernible, given the size of it and the importance of it. Do any members of the committee have any questions? Just go down the line. Senator Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I'd like to echo the chairman's sentiment. Thank you for simplifying this and the work y'all done over the last 5 years to kind of share up MDOT. It's outside of our people, our biggest asset, I think, is our transportation system. Just a couple of questions, Mr. Commissioner. Do you have an idea of, as you've been able to share up salaries and retain some of that, I'm going to say institutional knowledge, the consulting component, is there an idea of how much money we might be saving by not having the consulting?
Well, right now we're spending more on consultants, because at the same time that we've been doing salary adjustments, keep in mind, thanks to your direct appropriations, the capacity program has been put back to use. So we've been putting, I think y'all today to probably put close to $1 billion in new highway projects that are being built now all over the state, from the coast all the way up to the Tennessee line. And with that came the need, obviously, to bring those on into construction readiness, which required consultant works, just because our staffing is not up to where we were 30 years ago when the 4-lane highway started. So in all honesty, you're not going to see a decrease in the consulting budget as of yet. Theoretically, though, the argument that we've always used is, if we were able to rebuild our engineering staff back to where we were in the late 80s, when a lot of the pre-construction work done to implement the 87 4-lane program was done internally, you would see a savings of that. But we're not to a point yet where we're not dependent upon.
Or you're not to have some of that staff, you'd probably even have a greater consulting expense if it wasn't done internally with that stuff. But
absolutely.
But
primarily the reason you've seen an increase in that is because you've seen an increase in projects.
Sure.
That happen in the same window of time.
Well, I applaud when you're trying to put that skill set in-house, because I think ultimately it does save money. And I know we've got a lot of agencies for different reasons. I'm glad the personnel board's working with you to try to find out where the economics are not keeping people away. And that's it's good to see that being shared up, because it's hard to lose a 10 or 15-year person, for sure. Yeah. Second thing is, this is the end of the ARPA money. And I know that we've got a bucket that we're taking some of the overflow money that's being clawed back in ARPA. Is everything good there? I think we're going to look at maybe
all of the money that y'all have given us, I think, has been in the neighborhood of 115 million plus some.
Yes, sir.
All of that. Our paving programs were unique in that it already interfaces with the federal government. It already gets identified and projects plugged in. So we were able to hit all of the deadlines that ARPA had. All $115+ million have already been assigned to a project. Most of those projects are either underway or about to be underway. There is room for more. What we did with the money is we just immediately inserted them into projects that were already scheduled and pushed our money back so that we could ensure that the ARPA money got spent out first.
Well, I think as we look at this last round, the last 6 months of the year, as we go in, there may be some additional funds that we claw back, and having an opportunity to put it there, we'll be talking, I'm sure. So.
And we can provide the committee, Mr. Chairman, with a list of those projects and anything else that y'all may want, if you want to see directly where they went. But I mean, we just put them into existing projects we're already scheduled.
That's great. That's great. We sure don't want any money going back to Washington if we can keep from it. So thank y'all very much. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Williams. Senator Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On your travel, the 2.1 million, is it in-state travel of your workforce, or is that out of state
Well, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate you doing this. You've seen an increase in travel and it would make you think that that may be like conferences and things of that nature. With the rebirth of the capacity program, we do have a very active right-of-way division again. We've got more in-state travel where people are driving out and getting on the future sites of projects and having to work through buying parcels of property and doing all of the things that involve that, primarily in our right-of-way division, but there are others. So a lot of the increase that you see there is not because we're trying to take more trips, but it is because we've got employees engaged in the purchasing of right-of-way, the identification of the property owners, the things that take them out into the field to carry out the work of moving these projects through the pre-construction phase. And that's what that is. And that's something worthy of pointing out because it can paint the wrong picture. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
The other is your budget able, as you know, if you travel 49 south, the right of way itself, I see y'all doing a lot of work, basically bulkheading, some of the ridges that y'all are cutting through. Scenic wise, it looks great, and it is, I think it has an engineering aspect to it also as far as for the road
Right.
projects of the future. With the money you got now, though, especially from here down to McGee, I've noticed that the tree line, as far as encroaching to the point of the actual highway itself, have y'all budgeted for basically clearing the right of way somewhat on 49?
Yes, sir. In certain areas, we probably had during the drought and stuff like that, we probably had $30 million worth of dead trees on the right of way that we've been actively trying to remove. The Federal Highway Administration, they view anything that can be removed from the right of way as a positive thing. So there's always active safety projects that, as you know, our budget has various buckets of money that can be used. And so that's one of the reasons that we've are very appreciative of the legislature stopping the practice of earmarking the federal program, because we've got a very capable staff that what they do is they play this shell game of sorts to make sure that we're maximizing the use of federal funds to be sure that we get the most out of the federal money, because this bucket may be able to pay for these 3 projects. This one might could pay for 2 here. And they do a good job of maximizing the benefit of the federal dollars. That's a long way around the barn of me telling you that they are actively clearing the right of way and stuff like that, but it may come from different buckets of funds that you see. Sometimes it could be safety money, some it may just be regular maintenance funds.
My last question is, in Harrison County, Stone County, Lower Stone County, with the natural growth that we've had over the fast growth, I'm going to put it that way, of South Mississippi, then we've had a astronomical rise in the number of accidents because of the way traffic is not somewhat bunched up to where you have accessibility to cross Highway 49 from either direction, east or west. And talking with your engineering departments and all, there's a criteria that traffic lights, something that would displace the traffic somewhat, because it's still a big industrially, it's a logging community. We also now have Andrew that are making these solid rocket fuel boosters. A very volatile situation could come about if we're not able to get some type of stoppage to where your industrial commercial vehicles can enter the roadway or proceed in the opposite direction without the conflict with oncoming traffic. Have y'all been able to address that in any way yet?
In some ways, I mean, I will tell you that one of the things that I've discovered since being back at MDOT is sometimes if we were to put a traffic signal where one is not warranted, you're making the area more dangerous. I mean, there's data that shows when you bring traffic to a stop and then make them start again. Those traffic signals are normally put as a last resort because it does increase the opportunity for accidents. I don't know off the top of my head what the percentage is, but the vast majority of the accidents that get reported on our highway system happen at traffic signals. So the trick that we have is trying to look at some of the new design work that can be done to try to accommodate and meet the requirements that you're talking about. One of the issues on Highway 49 was it was built at a time where none of the access was purchased. Right now, when we buy highways, we purchase a lot of the access so it can be somewhat controlled and so that we can ensure the safety at a higher level because you're able to pinpoint where motorists are able to enter the highway or not. On Highway 49, you've got a driveway or something, all over the place. I mean, you're looking at mailboxes and everything else all the way from Jackson to the coast. So some of it is a challenge with that particular highway that you're talking about, just from some, maybe not mistakes that were made years ago, but some lack of looking too far down into the future. And then the other component of that is we can design the safest highways possible, but if people aren't paying attention to the speed limits and the safety, drive in a manner that's safe, we're not going to be able to stop any of the accidents. And some of it is a component of having law enforcement present and having law enforcement equipped in a way that they're able to carry out their job. We've got areas all over the state that the data would show that you may have an issue there, but it's all because there's not a presence of law enforcement and people are just not heeding the warning signs. And again, I'm not trying to pass the buck. I know that they fight the same battle we do in needing resources in order to hire people and have people out there in order to carry out their mission as well. So we are looking at those instances all over the state. I mean, it's our goal to try to provide as safe and efficient of a transportation system as we can with the funds we have, excuse me. But sometimes what would seem like the easiest common sense answer is just not what would work.
Well, that's what my follow-up is. Does the counties ever come to you ahead of time? A lot of their developmental growth turns some of these roads into major thoroughfares that you are not even aware of. And for the most part, down East Wortham Road, just out north of 53 in northern Harrison County, has now become a major confliction area. And then the area that's the real is problematic, and I don't have no idea the scenario of a solution, but where you're merging 67 and 49 in together, that it flows in together, but then it almost becomes a continuous line. And there is a major presence of DPS there at most hours of the day, but still in all, people have taken the mindset to where they pull up there to try to cross across 49. And they see a little window when they've got momentum going and they try to play the Dukes of Hazzard and shoot across all four lanes. And, you have catastrophic effects when their timing's off. But they're willing to take that risk because of the amount of time they have to sit there, as much as 10, 12, 15 minutes, because there's no break in the traffic to even get on and then, work your way over and then come back to where you're trying to cross. But I would like for y'all, if y'all can come up with some type of solution, let me know to what we can get the supervisors down there on board, or at least to be talking more with y'all as far as future growth.
We're happy to have that conversation, and we want the same thing that y'all want and that they want.
Thank you.
We're more than happy to be a partner in that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Sir Seymour. Sir Younger, any questions?
Yeah, I'm good.
Any other questions for Goody? Senator McClendon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Director. As always, pleasure having you here. Thank you what your agency has done for the state and in DeSoto County. It's hard for me to ask for anything when looking through this book And not counting the phase one of I-55 widening, but there's about $80 million worth of projects on here, from the safety to maintenance to Vision 21. We are growing up there, and we still have other needs that I'm not, our exits, still working on the 1960s. So again, I'm not even going to, that's the one thing that, people say, I can't get on the interstate. I can't do that. Well, with a widening of 51, the widening of 305, which has been desperately needed in the Olive Branch, Lewisburg area. I just wanted to say thank you from DeSoto County, honestly. We've got a $20 billion build or investment that's coming up there. And have y'all been approached at all how that will affect our roads up there with that going in? With the
I'm sure
maintenance?
there have been conversations. I've not been directly involved in a lot of those, but I'm sure the commissioner, I'm sure our district engineer, and possibly even the chief engineer are involved in that. Sometimes the best thing I can do is get out of the way. I'm not an engineer, so I don't try to pretend to be one and let the professionals do their job. So I'm sure that those conversations are happening, and I'm happy to get you an update on.
Thank you. And for anybody that lives in the Hernando area, of course, they're going to say Commerce and 55.
Very familiar with that.
Where you got 5 lanes, which was designed for 3.
Right.
And it's a 20,000 people city. And in the daytime, it's 40 with the county business and whatnot that goes on there. So when we try to tell people, it's on the list to be done. Now, will it be done tomorrow? No. And also the Star Landing Road needs an exit where the new armory is up there. And I'll also thank y'all for coming up there and giving a brief description of what is going on that y'all did back in the late last session when you came up to 51. But again, thank you, and we appreciate it. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Senator Clinton. Senator Younger, do you have a question?
When things on a highway get destroyed, like the railing cable that goes in between Starkville and Columbus, who goes after the people that?
Their insurance pays for that. Well, there's a fund that the insurance, when the accident report is written, if it's a fault, I mean, I don't know. But I do know that we receive funds from when the accident report's drawn up, when all of that is identified, we get reimbursed for all the cost of making those repairs.
Senator Hobson, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director White, and your team for your good work with improving our roads and bridges in the state of Mississippi. I was looking over this quickly, and a couple of things jumped out at me, but the one that I really want to zero in on, because it's a time issue, and we may need to just have a separate meeting to really get down and talk about details. And with Senator Williams and Senator Thompson and myself would be on ARPA funds and that utilization. If you want to give me a 30-second answer, you can, but I think we're going to need a lot more than a 30-second.
I've given us a little better than 115 million in ARPA. All of that has been obligated towards projects, some underway, some about to be underway. I think we could very reasonably handle another 100 million if we needed it. We get north of that, we probably need to have a conversation to make sure that we can still hit deadlines and stuff. I recognize, I'm assuming by then that would be transferred over into lost revenue, which would have a different set of restrictions on it that may give us a little more flexibility. But 100% of what you've given us has been identified, set aside for projects that are underway or about to be underway. We could probably do another 100 million easily. Anything more than that, we need to talk about.
So that would include the overflow funds that have fallen into MDOT you're talking about and that will fall in. Y'all feel good about that?
ARPA, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. One question that's come up is on page 3 of your handout, the FY 26 on the other sources of revenues. FY 25, it was 36 million. FY 26 projected was 105 million. FY 27 is down to 61 million. Where's that decrease coming from? If you know, I know that there's a number of what it
Yeah,
includes.
I mean, Byron, you may know directly what it is, but basically I mean, it's listed down here below, shows you where all of this could come from. Some of that was other, maybe earmarks and other, revenues for specific projects, bond proceeds,
MDA is a big one.
Yeah.
We have Project Poppy ongoing. In 26, we've been spending some money. That'll feed into 27, obviously, but as Brad said, it is special projects that we have other money for, be it MDA bonds.
So it could be
Some of the old
one-time money
ERBR.
that would be spent out one year and you don't have.
And you don't have it the next. That makes sense. Okay. Thank you for that. Did the members of the committee have any other questions? All right. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we'll be in touch as we work through the process.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is a continuation of Senate Subcommittee 7. With us today is Office of State Aid Road Construction and Director Lee. And if you want to just start off by giving us a introduction and kind of a description of where we are and what you plan on doing the next year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing us to come before you today as well and present our budget request and share the good things that are going on with state aid roads and all. And thank y'all for the confidence in us and the continued funding and increase in funding that we're starting to see now and pass along to the counties because they were in dire need of additional fundings for their roads and everything. The bridges are kind of in a state of equilibrium. But you know, it's extra money can always fix anything, as we've learned in the past. But I think things are going pretty good in most cases. The second slide is just how we were established state aid under 6591 through 35, all our different code sections. And then the third page is our budget request, showing 2027, this current year, and then, you know, just some facts and figures about us. This time last year when we were going through you know, this procedure, nobody had an inkling or a clue as to what the fuel tax increase was going to do for us, or, you know, if there was going to be one, if, you know, what it would amount to, how it would be implemented. Additionally, nobody knew about the House Bill 1 error either, which generated another extra year of state aid funding for us. We actually will receive 5 years of funding in a 4-year board term. We work in board terms to correlate with the supervisors. Even though we think of the state fiscal year, we're always cognizant of that. And then where we have to, the federal fiscal year too, because of the federal funds that we use for bridge inspection. So, it's an intricate web we have to stay on top of, but I've got good people. I'm apologize and introduce this to my deputy, Kristen Neat. She handles all the administrative stuff. She's in accounting, takes care of everything that I mess up or or don't want to handle. So she's my go-to, and she can come up with an answer very, very quickly. She's smart and she's been there with the agency a long time and knows the intricate ins and outs of all our financing and everything. Because that's probably one of the hardest things to learn is the funding and financing through state aid. You know, again, I said we didn't know what we didn't know last year at this time, so consequently, we're actually playing a little bit of catch up in this budget request because if we'd known going in last year, we probably would have asked for a little bit more spending authority, and that's what we're looking at is budget authority, spending authority. We have funds, good funds coming in through the board term. We just need the authority to spend all that we get, and we never know when it's going to get spent. We may have 82 counties drop $1 million program on us at one time and say we want to let these projects. So we have to have that ability at that time to keep the projects moving forward for them. Because 2 years ago, we're at the beginning of the third year of a board term. At the first year of the board term, we gave them essentially a credit card with their full amount of spending on it for that board term. So, and then now we've got extra money, coming in from the what I like to call the car wash or the vending machines that we just collect monthly out of DFA and allocate to the counties as excess revenue. So they don't see it in one wad of cash. It goes in incrementally to them over these next years. One thing that I learned from going through this, because I like dealing with the numbers and all and seeing, even though we started collecting the extra 3 cents a gallon started being collected July 1, it's really a 4-month lag before that money ever hits the counties. Collected in July, it goes to DOR in August. September, it comes back to us, and then we put it in their accounts in September, and then they don't know they've got it until October. So there's a lag in all of that we do with the state aid funds or the bridge funds that are allocated to us. So that's why we, I guess there are certain restrictions we put in place on what the counties can do, how they can spend their funds, but we try to push every project that we can push out the door as quickly as we can once we see that they've got funds available to do it and meet within the parameters that are set by us to come out and spend the money efficiently, effectively, and get what y'all expect out of it too. So again, we thank y'all for the confidence y'all put in us and for us, our ability to work with the counties to keep, them moving forward and making improvements. The fuel tax increase was greatly needed because so many of them had just basically stopped their road programs or just barely getting by on what little bit they were getting. But now, with the 3 cents a gallon started last July, we'll get another 3 cents up to the 6 cents this July. And then the next July in 27, we'll get the full benefit of the 9 cents a gallon. Again, they won't see that up until October, but it'll be pushed out to them fully at the beginning of their next board term in January of 28. We work with guaranteed revenue coming in from the use tax for the bridge program, state aid, or the local system bridge program, and then the state aid program. State aid program, which is the majority, the bulk of our program, currently is $4 million a month, or was $4 million a month until last July. It went up to 5, and so 4 million was 48. And then it goes to 5 next year. I mean, it is 5 now. It goes to 6.5 in this coming July, and then we'll go to 8, which the 8 will carry forward from that point forward into the next board term. So instead of 48 million per year at the beginning of this board term, they'll go to $96 million a year guaranteed at the beginning of the board term in January 28. So it's going to ramp up and ramp up quickly and everything. They're good at spending money if they've got the money to spend, and now they know they've got it, so, or will have it. So, and that's been the holdup in the past. So and please, anyone has any questions as we go through this, don't hesitate to ask. Yes, sir, Senator.
I think I called you this summer. We had just a concrete bridge, steel bridge railings on the side, and it wasn't real big, but it was being held up by the Department of Archives and History and the wildlife and fishery. Those two things had to be okay by them.
They're all tied to the permits. In fact, I had a call from Central Williams County Engineer in Octavia this morning fussing about archives and history. They holding a project up that's ready to roll and everything, but and this is what's concerning to me. And I probably shouldn't say this, but he asked, well, what's the holdup? And they said, well, when are you going to give us an opinion on these? And the comment was, well, if it had federal funds, we were required to give you an answer within so many days. Since it's just got state funds, we can take as long as we want. He called me during lunch. So that's, as a state employee, that does not sit well with me, because we try to be faster on the pure state funded projects than we are on anything with federal funds in it. So.
Any other questions from the gate? Senator Seymour?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On your contractual, you're asking for close to 456,000 more. Explain that a little bit to me. Is that outside services, or I'm looking at our LBO sheet?
Contractual was the same amount. We're asking for an increase in salaries and fringe and subsidies on.
From pre-25, y'all spent 262,241, and now you're asking for 718.
Senator Seymour, maybe hopefully you can show the deputy director on the elbow sheet that you're looking at.
So a lot of times, we have bridge classes, and the contractual amount, federal highway charges pretty good penny for these bridge classes that we have. We try to keep the authority for anything that may come along, but yes, that's
Okay.
outside services. Contract workers, That could be bridge inspection classes for the engineers, the county officials.
That's kind of what I was leading up to. How many, what amount or how many bridges now is under the federal, still under the federal inspection?
All bridges are always under federal inspection.
No, but they had a lot of them
Well, they
2
came
years
in,
ago, 3 years ago.
they
That
came in 17 and looked at the numbers that were being reported with a certain condition rating and the ones that were actually closed, and they didn't match up. And that's when Governor Bryant came in and said, hey, we're gonna close these bridges or anybody's gonna lose their federal aid fund. All
Right.
that's been taken care of. They went from a number from over 500 to we're less than 200 closed bridges statewide.
So, but what I'm saying is, are they still mandating
That's,
the monthly inspections?
it's in federal law that we have to do the inspections annually or either every 24 months, depending on the type of bridge and the condition of it. We have to do underwater inspections up to a 5-year interval. We had to, close several on the coast here over this past summer and one here, I think recently, over the pass. But yeah, it's a federal mandate and all, and we have to budget. I budget $40 million a year for bridge inspection for the 42 firms minimum that do the work for us. And then I spend $40 million a year out of state money on, or account for $40 million for the bridge programs every year.
But what I'm getting at, the normal inspection, 40 million. That heightened inspection that the feds come in 17 and required us to do more inspections, more frequent inspections, or we're still having to do that?
Yes, sir. It's in federal law, and the inspections were never done by the feds. The inspectors were always done
True.
local, but they were paid for with the federal aid funds, which they are now at 100%. They don't cost the county a single dollar.
They don't. Okay.
I get that money from Brad.
Thank you, sir.
And that will be in perpetuity, as I told the group this morning, unless something changed. It's like an elevator, only they go left to right, horizontal. An elevator, if one person rides it, it's got to be inspected annually. A bridge, if you get one car on it, it's got to be inspected annually, or you close it down. We close down bridges that are not safe. Any bridge that's open is safe for a vehicle to ride with the, posted restrictions on it if there are any. So.
Thanks, Senator Seymour. Any other questions from members of the committee? Director Lee, you made a comment earlier that, I guess, I'm going to just make sure I understand what you were saying, that there's more, you've got more coming in than you have authority to spend. Is that what I understand?
Well, it's building up and it continues to come and all, and we have no real control of when the county's gonna send in a project, a program, how it's gonna go, because you got the program part that starts initially, that starts the process leading to a project that goes and takes bids and leads to construction. And then you got the actual expenditures for the construction project. They kind of lag and all, but we have to have that ability to let those projects so that they can be constructed. And so what we're asking for is ability to spend every dime that we get and what we already have, because some of the money we have is for projects from last board term that still is not, paid out yet. So not a lot of them in there, but there are some that are there. So we're looking at budget authority from those years, that projects, combined with what we're seeing currently, plus what we continue to get. The excess revenue that we're seeing now, I'm gonna say is not accounted for, but it was not anticipated when we first started. When we started the board term and gave them that credit card with that 48 months of spending on it, but for that full board term. So we're allocating that monthly to them, both for the bridge programs. And when I say excess revenue, is revenue above the minimums.
So are there projects right now that aren't being funded because OSARC's maxed out its authority?
No, we still got, that's not an issue yet. And that's why we're asking for an increased budget authority from what we've had in the past. From, currently with 235, we're looking for 360, but we're seeing what's coming down the road.
Okay.
special money, so it really doesn't affect the budget other than it just is a number.
Gotcha. And so be careful using the word excess revenues around here. I'm phrasing it that way, but you're looking at what you're talking about there is increases in revenues from the fuel tax,
Right.
from some of the increased revenue changes or the revenue changes that we did last session.
Right, and
Okay.
the guarantee that's in statute for 48 million, 4 million a month, we may see 4.5 million come in, we may see 5 million come in. So that amount over the 4 million monthly is what we consider excess revenue. And that's how we fund our operation, our administrative program, just, whatever we have to go, go through moving forward, or extra projects. I mean, it's allocated monthly to all the counties, by formula, by the state aid formula. So it's not just sitting there for for them to spend, but then they've got to have enough to combine it with something to either, have $150,000 to do a striping job, have, $700,000 to do a bridge on a state aid road, a small bridge, or a big paving job that may be $3, $4, $5 million. And start seeing some larger projects coming going forward when they start seeing that extra money, because they've been the counties have been throttled back because they didn't have the funds.
Now they see it coming.
Now
They've got the
coming,
projects
so
in the pipe.
Gearing up. Of course, there is an election coming up too and everything. They've got certain restrictions that they have to deal with moving forward. But I mean, I think most of them are in pretty good shape. And so we're going to do all we can to ensure that they're able to get that money out the gate. So.
I'm looking at salaries real quick. Do you have any empty pins right now?
Yes, got two people leaving me the end of this month. One in a resignation on Friday. And I've got another young lady that's been with me for 16 or 17. She went out, and I'm proud of her. She went out and got her nursing degree on her own at night. And she's going to work for UMMC come the second day of February.
Yeah.
So she's leaving. So I'll create 2 vacancies.
That's the only 2 that you have?
No, I had 5, and then she'll create 2 more. My look last year at July, I had 48. I had 1 retire, or after he retired at the end of June, my head count went down to 48. I hired somebody back in his place after got him from MDOT in November. So I got back up to 49, and then I'm going back to 47 again.
But you're good at keeping it level at 54.
Trying to do that and everything, but also trying to always increase, because we're a unique group with skill sets and everything. I don't have a lot of people that do a lot of the same thing, but I got a lot of good, capable people that we try to keep them happy, so they'll enjoy coming to work every day.
Understood. Is there any language changes that you need in the general in the appropriations bill? I think I saw in your handout on the second to last page.
Mainly the carry forward language we had before. You took care of us last year on the local system bridge funding, increasing that amount. I think we'll be good on it, because that hasn't changed. I mean, even though we're seeing with excess revenue coming in from use tax sometimes, we're seeing it's a minimum $20 million a year program. It's going to 24 million. It may get a little over 25 million, just depending on what it comes in, but it's working well. So I wouldn't do anything there.
So that's current language?
Yeah, the current language.
Just keep that.
Yeah, keep that.
Okay.
The state aid program is where we see the opportunity for that to blossom and expand, and we want to make sure we don't have anything in the way of them wanting to do some things and play catch up in the coming years.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question. When y'all were talking a minute ago, you've got about $130 million increase in spending authority there, and you feel confident with your 54 pins, you'll be able to administer that if you hit that ceiling?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're like I say, we've got some good, capable people that have been there for a good while. Quite honestly, though, hiring new people with the new tiered structure for the retirement system is going to be challenging.
Wow.
It's just not what people are used to seeing in a state employment.
That's what I found the old people have. If I've pulled younger people coming into the workforce, they love it. Just my research.
Well, maybe because I'm old then, I like the,
I've had more than one confrontation about it. I mean, I think if we sell this the right way, it's a good thing, but just one person's perspective.
well, it's belt and suspenders, whatever you want to say. I think the combination is probably good. I'm not sure it's exactly weighted right.
Sure.
But then that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions from the committee? Senator Seymour?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last question on y'all's responsibility. The Board of Supervisors come to y'all with a project. Y'all administer the money, the inspection. Is there anything else that y'all?
The money that y'all appropriate for state aid comes to us for the county's benefits. The county has to have a county engineer to handle the bridge work and their state aid work. They submit what we call a program. It's a plan of work that they submit to us. We review it, make sure the funding source is eligible for the type of funding they want to use, and the type of work they want to do meets the standards that we have established historically over the years as far as constructing a project. From that point, we give them the sign off and they develop the project, move forward with it, get all of the permitting for it by the right of way, whatever, get it up to the point of being going to bid. And then from that point, my district engineers, I've got 8 district engineers that work out in the field and do like periodic, but inspection of projects in the field along with the county engineer. The county engineer has responsibility for
He's the responsible.
He's the one responsible for it because they do the procurement because the contract is between the contractor or a contractor and the county.
Mhm.
But we pay the county engineer directly to the county, and then the county administers those funds to the county engineer. We pay the contractor directly from approved estimates and vetting and make sure they've met all the rules and requirements and everything. And that's what our district engineers are out looking at the work in the field, making sure it's been completed to our standards and things like that. And then they work with the county engineer if there's any inconsistency or something that maybe doesn't meet standard to ensure that we're getting the, what we intended, what the plans call for, what the intent of the use of the funds is for. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thanks for coming in.
Good.
And I'm sure we'll be in touch as we work our way through the appropriations process.
Good deal. Thank you, sir. Again, thank y'all for the opportunity to come before you.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate the work y'all do as well.
Yes,
So.
All right, this is the last meeting of the Subcommittee 7 for preliminary budget review. We have with us the Tom Bigby River Valley Water Management District. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the committee and giving us an overview of what the district does and what you got coming up this year.
Have got me loud and clear there. Well, congratulations, you were able to say the name in one breath. We often just go by the district, but I'm Drew Robertson. I'm the executive director of the state agency, special agency. Brad Stevens, our board president, with apologies, he's caught up at the Mississippi Business Alliance. So I think he talked to Senator Hobson, but he will not be joining us. But Jacory, LBO, Tina, Wendy, DeMaria, if I get any Zoomers, I'm going to throw it off to them. But all joking aside, thank you, not gratuitously, thank you for everything you've done to help us get here. I've got a handout. I'm not going to bore you to tears by reading you everything, but I figured I would dial you into this. There's a map on the back, which kind of gives you the geospatial position of the district. But we basically do flood control, recreation, and economic development. I think many years ago, Eastland, Stennis, and Witten were thinking, how are we going to get a waterway? Our agency is the host agency for the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway, but we do not have any connective tissue with them other than we have about 50 miles of levees that are tributaries to the Tom that we keep and maintain. When the Corps has a project, we will work with them to repair, do flood control, mitigation, that type of thing. You can see here, I won't bore you to tears, but you can see the 4 program areas that we have. Our budget request for fiscal year 2027 is 9.89 million. There's a slight delta. The LBR has an 11,813 addition. So the total is 9,101,320 for fiscal year 2027. A couple more points, and then I'll yield certainly for any questions. We do have a board of directors. We have 2 members from every county, 1 supervisor appointed, 1 governor appointed, and then we have 3 at large, and we have 4 members from state agencies that meet quarterly. Our executive board meets monthly. And we, in essence, to kind of boil it down for you, as this agency has morphed over the years, in the 70s, they were building watersheds, et cetera, et cetera. Really, our wheelhouse is flood control. So, for instance, when the tornado hit Amory, the governor dispatched us up there. We fulfilled the emergency watershed protection funding, the MEMA funding for the recovery of Monroe County. So a lot of what we do is in the creeks and tributaries that citizens don't ever see. The real secret sauce of what we do, however, again, with the supervisors kind of being where we get our marching orders, we can go on private property, supervisors cannot. They have to stay in the right of way. So when a supervisor has a project, we'll have the county run traps on the easements. And if that landowner is in agreement, we can actually come in and provide, peak stone dikes, weirs, riprap, repair, recovery. We build some small bridges. Senator Branning, before she went to the judicial side, came and visited some of our smaller county road bridges that we do. And I'll leave you with this and then yield for any comments or questions. We don't take a penny from the state. All of our revenue is generated through the millage in the counties. And so what I do like about our agency, it truly is one of those opportunities where there's not a lot of layering for how the money is going to be spent. The local elected official brings it to our board. Our board will approve that. And then we can go out, and I've grown up in kind of a for-profit mentality, but our guys, I would put them up against any private sector group. So we have 12 crew members, excavators, bulldozers, kind of modern day cowboys. They're artisans with torch welts and stuff like that. So that being said, I'll certainly yield for any questions. I know sometimes we're a purple unicorn up in Northeast Mississippi and people don't really understand quite what we do.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Seymour?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the difference between y'all and like Pat Harrison Waterway? Y'all take care of basically the same issues with some federal match money with your counties?
No, hey, thank you for the question, and I would answer it by saying this way. I think the similarities are that we're state special agencies, but it pretty much stops there. The Pearl River Basin, Pat Harrison, our agency, very unique, very different. I kind of laugh. I've got three kids, and I often say, "Who's your dad?" Because they're all so different.
Hmm.
But we're very uniquely different. Interestingly enough, a few years ago, we were able to give Kemper Lake, which was a property we owned, back to the county because we felt that it was going to be better served economically. It could be developed. And Pat Harrison helped with taking that in Kemper County and managing that asset for them and for the community. So Pat Harrison has some similarities, like we have John Bell Williams Wildlife Management Area. We both have some properties, but really that's where the similarities, I think, stop, because we're really focused on flood control. So we're going out, and I won't bore you to tears with this, and I'm the executive director. I'm not the guy doing the work. But if you think about, I'll give you Tupelo, Saltillo, where I live up in Lee County. The creeks up there, the old timers will walk and say, when I was a young boy, this was a 3 foot deep creek. But when you think about Saltillo, North Tupelo, all of the development, the asphalt, the roof lines, you got all these waters being supercharged into the creeks. So there's a lot of development in those areas. And that has created a lot of fluffing and sloughing of these creeks, and they get deeper and deeper. Then the farmer sprays Roundup all the way to the end, not understanding that killing the vegetation is going to only make matters worse. So I kind of use that illustration. We are what the Corps put in place, or the state of Mississippi more, to try to make sure we had some plan for flood control, albeit we're very small. But as the Tom Bigby was built, we knew that there was going to be need for some type of response or plan to mitigate flood control or to mitigate flood issues. So I kind of went around the Horn of Africa to answer your question, but we're a little different than Pat Harrison in that we actually have a mission to do flood control projects.
Do you do stormwater retention lakes? And how many do y'all have nowadays?
No, sir. They were back in kind of the 60s and 70s. We actually did build some watersheds. We worked with USDA, NRCS, to build Kemper Lake. But I think as you know, the last few decades, we've realized there's some benefit to watershed, but it's, let's don't throw watersheds everywhere. So we've kind of tried to jettison ourselves from that. Elvis Presley Lake was a lake we had years ago, which was given back to the county before I got here. So really, again, our wheelhouse and the direction I've tried to take us is let's focus on flood control. Now, I'll caveat that by saying this in response. I can only generate revenue through 2.5 mils on the 1983 valuations. So if we liquidate equipment, if we're purchasing something, we can sell. But I've got very limited ways to generate revenue. So we've met with the NRCS and we've said, when you have an emergency watershed protection issue, when you've got a disaster, we want to be who you ask to discharge that, because we get a 75-25 match on that. And I've got federal funds on this handout. So I've gone out to all the counties and said, hey, look, if you've got a tornadic issue or flood issue or a rain event, we will be your sponsor, because we don't have to use the money that you pay into the district, albeit the equipment was paid for, et cetera. But it helps me to put revenue into my coffers, and we don't have to go into the money that you put into this. So we try to give our counties return on investment every year. I make the rounds and keep in touch with them. So I think we bring a tremendous value to the counties when you look at the value of what they get back versus what they pay in.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Senator Williams?
Just maybe a point of clarity. I think I understand this right from previous meeting. The district we're referring to the 13 counties of Mississippi, but aren't you part of a little bit bigger conglomerate that has Alabama and Tennessee, and that's the entire Tom Bigby River Valley that kind of has the same mission? Is that?
It's a great question. So that includes the Tom Bigby Basin. However, we are exclusive to Mississippi. So interestingly enough, there's a few counties that could be members that are not: Webster, Winston, Tippah, Union, and Choctaw. So if your county, if a drop of water goes into the Tom-Bigby Basin, Mobile District, and then eventually comes out of Mobile Bay, and you're in Mississippi, you can be a member of, so we have 5 counties that are not members. But Alcorn County, I'll give you as an illustration, they have about, and I'm kind of arbitrarily saying 10%, but about 10% of their county is in Tom-Bigby. Most of their district drains out to Wolf Creek into Memphis, which is the Memphis Corps of Engineers district. However, they get the full benefit of our services because they're in. So again, membership is really just having an inch of dirt that drains into Tom-Bigby, if that makes sense. But Alabama certainly in Tennessee to an extent have rivers that come into the basin as well. Good question. Thank you.
Senator Younger.
So when you're talking about flood control, erosion is part of that, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Talking about the ditch in Saltillo, it's just unbelievable how much is washed down James Creek where Goody's got his.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for that question. I'll elaborate a little bit. So we cannot, we don't have restorative properties for erosion, but we're very fortunate that we have ERDIC at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Vicksburg. So peak stone dikes, they have weirs, they have a lot of structures that have come out of Vicksburg that we've actually put into the district. So I'll give you an example. The Tom-Bigby was, the actual river was jumping out and it was getting into some land that the paper company owned. So the Corps of Engineers, since we are their host agency, asked us to address it. We took a design that they had. It was in the elbow of the river, and the river was jumping out, if you can imagine the outside elbow. We put in these weirs that almost look like bones in a flounder that you had gone to Chrishell's and they opened it up. And over time, the sands came around, completely filled that in and restored that bank. So again, we don't really have restorative properties. When we have someone like the Corps that comes in with a good design, we can do some things like that. Lastly, we can also build a type of dike structure, a peak stone dike. It almost looks like if you've got a part of the river that's sloughing off, we can do a crescent moon with riprap. And when the waters and sands go over that, the water retreats, but the sands stay in there. So we can prevent further erosion. So erosion is a challenge. We can't really repair erosion, but we can certainly get at it if that answers your question. Again, Dr. Goodgame, you've seen some of the things going on there in Monroe County.
I replaced the bridge in West Point too on Highway 50. That might have been before.
That was prior to my time. Yeah, and the bridges are a little tricky because obviously some counties don't want it, an engineer has to sign off on it. But we're really good for your county road. We've got, old military style bridges that we can put in and engineer signs off on them. It's a great, again, we can't do a lot of MDOT type bridges, but we certainly can do some of these smaller bridges. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Does any other members of the committee have a question? I do have a question about the FY25. It looked like you had a little bit over 2 million in member county contributions, and that jumps up to almost 8 million. What's the reason for that delta?
Thank you for that question, and I appreciate it because I've tried to every year in the budgets. I try to put bleach and sunshine on this very question. We have around $9 million in our budget. We spend anywhere from about 2.2 to 2.4. That's our operational budget, salaries, fringes, et cetera. And of course, we have some, LBO gives us some parameters on what we can and can't spend. We will be over because there might be a 1,000-year flood. There may be some event that we're going to have to use those resources. Is it likely? No. But the other thing I've told this committee in the past, we also put that money, we've got it in a private fund special now. We put it in CDs when the yield is up there. We also are trying to generate revenue from the budget rainy fund that we have. So we get about $500,000 a year, again, anything to feed the beast, like trying to put revenue in there. I'm very interested how, some of the House and Senate actions, restructuring some of how we're doing taxes is ultimately going to have some impact. And we've a 2-year abstraction that I'm having our attorney do to try to get more fidelity on the geospatial footprint. What do we really have? And we are not naive. I don't think it's this year, but at some point, we're going to have to look at, hey, we're getting 2.5 miles from a 1983 valuation. Do we need to try to come up with a number that is going to be better for revenue? Because candidly, everything's more expensive. So I'm not saying that as a parlor trick to hide the fact that we got 9 million, but I am trying to be very forthright and say, yeah, we have $9 million in our budget. We earmark it, but we do not believe we're going to spend it. However, what if there's something like North Carolina where you got flooding in the mountains? Billions of dollars, and Franklin Graham flying helicopters everywhere. I mean, so it could happen. My role is to be prepared for those things, to mitigate crisis, to be ready. Again, I'm not trying to be over dramatic. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. So that's the importance of that $9 million that you see.
So it's not necessarily additional expenditures
Carry
you're
over.
anticipating. It's just been built
Yes, sir.
over time and has gotten up to that 9 million.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And again, so yeah, you're correct. We're not pulling in 9 million a year. We're trying to be a good steward of it. And again, I've been here about 5 years, so I've been trying to posture the message, not to do a shell game, but to say to the Senate and House, hey, look, this is what we got, and this is why we have what we have, and we're happy to explain it. But it does help me to generate revenue. What if one of my excavators goes down and there's a tariff on it? So we've got to have equipment. So I'm trying to plan, and I'm not throwing this out to get any props, but I'm in the National Guard, and everything we've ever done is enemy's most deadly course of action and most likely. I plan most deadly course of action because I've got to be able to do that if that happens.
Understood.
And that's a big if.
Understood. Thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee? Questions from Senator McMahon?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I wanted to share, I appreciate the Colonel being here. They're headquartered in the area that I represent, but they serve a large footprint of counties. And in my time serving as a senator, when I first came in office, I was skeptical about the amount of money they were carrying on hand. But over time, I have learned to respect what they're doing because a lot of times they're the exact remedy when something happens. And I've had some personal experience with that. If you would allow me to elaborate, I had a river, Tom Bigby River, breached and tried to change course, and they had a rapid response, got over there, were able to stop it as it was going into some of the most valuable farmland in the county, and they were able to stop it and redirect it back into the channel. So that's the kind of work they do. And without them, sometimes counties, they don't have the money on hand. They have to find an appropriation of some, but this is a rapid response, and it plays a key in a lot of water disasters and bank stabilizations and things of that nature.
Good deal. Good to see things working the way they're supposed to.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you for your time. We'll as we work through the appropriations process.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.